So my favorite thing that happened to me yesterday, probably my favorite thing that's ever happened between you and I ever.
Yeah.
Carmen and I are working on we're working on a project, just minding our own damn business. And I'm thinking to myself, God, I just feel so peaceful with Carmen, who, P.S., I'm friends with outside of my friendship with you.
Yeah.
Just like Carmen and I are just friends. It's not just like me, you, and Carmen.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm thinking to myself, God, like if I started a commune and bought some land and had animals and baked bread and made jelly and like weaved baskets and sold it on the side of the road, I would do it with Carmen. It would be so harmonious. We would just make the perfect little village. And I say to Carmen, not to you.
I'm not even at the same table.
You're not even in the same quadrant of the room as us.
But I have like a beaker. I can just hear you wherever you are. And assume obviously that you're talking about me.
I know. Well, because the world revolves around you, obviously. But I said to Carmen, we would be such good roommates. We would just be such a good little pairing. And Carmen is like, yeah. And from across the room, Nicole shouts, is that a dig at me? And the best part about it is that we're all busting our asses to get these projects done.
Yeah.
Where everybody is
everyone else is working.
It's like a sweatshop in here.
Erica's on the floor.
Yes. Trying to get everything done.
I have to be in a chair.
Right. And Nicole, I look up and look over at Nicole across the room, and you are sitting in basically a throne with a shawl, with his luxurious shawl thrown over your shoulders.
Oh.
I'm not passive aggressive.
No.
Well, that would have been
But I have to assume that everyone is talking about me at all times.
Sure. Except that I want you to know that if I was making a dig at you, I would have said that to Carmen, and then I would have said, but not you, Nicole. Like I would have said, Carmen, we would make such good roommates. We are so compatible and we would just live in peace for the rest of our lives. Nicole, you're not allowed. I would have said that, but I didn't.
But every roommate I've ever had, like I would live with them again and they don't feel the same. So I think it's a trauma response. Anytime I hear people talking.
That is exactly what I thought. In my head, I was like, oh my God, new trauma unlocked.
Yeah.
Who hurt you?
Nobody wants to live with me anymore. I think Dave, the only reason he wants to continue living with me is sex.
Sure.
So I'm not a great cook.
Sure.
We have a cleaning lady.
You're too pretty for all of those things, though.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
It does.
It's 24 hours later, and I still think it's funny. I literally have been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it since yesterday. So, all right. Well, welcome back. We are on episode 4.
Yep.
I'm Amanda.
And I'm Nicole.
And we're Book Sluts. We are reading our final.
Thank God.
Lesson.
So long.
Lesson learned. We are never doing a 4-book series ever again. Great series, great author. We have positive things
to
say about it, but
read them. They're so good.
Yeah.
Recommend reading all of these.
Yeah. But just
not.
We are over talking about them. We've been talking about them for a month now.
We cannot wait.
We can't
start the next standalone book.
Yeah. All right. What book are we reading, Nicole?
We are reading The Fae Princes by Nikki St. Crowe.
And the dedications change each book. The dedication in this book is, I don't quite understand it. So maybe once we get into it, you can explain it to me.
Okay.
The dedication is to all the girls who know the sound of a silent scream. I didn't relate to that one as much. The only thing I could generally relate to this was like, in my head, I'm always...
You're taking it pretty literal, the silent scream.
In my head, I'm always screaming. In my head, I'm always like raging at the entire universe for being so annoying and tedious. Everything as an adult is so exhaustive. But outside of that, I'm just snarky and not screaming. So that's...
I don't know that that's what she meant, but I felt the same way. It wasn't one, I didn't even write it down because I could take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we haven't had this type, but I have never had anything that's happened in these books happen to me.
This book, I have some thoughts about the things that happen in this book.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to start with the prologue. This one has a prologue. It's the only one that does. The perspective is unique. It's the perspective of the mother. That's the only information that we have about this person. The mother is standing at the edge of the lagoon, holding a crying 2-week-old baby boy, and she describes the baby as mischievous, arrogant, restless, and hard to please. She believes that keeping him would be a disturbance to her other children, saying he would destroy them all. So she's going to sacrifice one to save the many. She puts him in a giant leaf, puts him in the waters of the lagoon, and gives him a little push with her parting words being, "I'm sorry."
We figure it's
We
Pan's mom.
This entire book is about Pan's mommy issues.
We learned so much.
We really do. Chapter 1 opens back where we left off, which thank God.
Thank God.
As soon as it opened with mother's POV, I was like, "Oh, we're not doing this
Again.
We can't do this again." And thankfully it was one page. So Pan thinks he must be having a nightmare because Tinkerbell, who of course we know is dead, has just stepped out of the shadows and revealed herself to him resurrected. As Pan is trying to process this, we delve deeper into the dynamics of their relationship. Pan admits to himself that for many years, Tink was his only friend and that he would have done anything for her because he is afraid of having none. And what's more is that their friendship is built on their shared affinity for the darkness and mutual willingness to do the dirty work, sometimes just for the fun of it. I read that description and realized that's why you and I are friends.
Just our shared love of dark things.
Yeah.
It took us a minute to realize if we were being real or not. Because I didn't know if I'm paranoid. I come from retail. You're like, is everybody a spy who's just trying to get me fired? It took a minute to realize that we actually were very similar.
There's nothing that I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's anything that's off the table for me to share with you.
Obviously.
Because you're not bothered by anything that I say.
It took a second to just dip our toe in. And
It took you a second. Didn't take me any time.
No, you just went right
I
out
met
there.
you and I was like, "Oh, hi. So nice to meet you. We're going to be best friends." And you actually said to me, you went, "Okay."
It was, I was not sure. Now you say that to everybody, so I don't even feel special.
I don't start podcasts with everybody, so you
Very true. Except Nick, because
it would be a good podcast.
It would be I would love to watch Nick on a podcast.
100%. He's so interesting.
Yeah.
Pan's reaction here is interesting because he does not immediately consider getting rid of her. He almost is welcoming her. He's asking her how she's been.
He's trying to figure out why she's here, what she's doing. Is she really there?
He's also more worried about the twins, Winnie and Vane's reaction to her being here than her actually being here. Almost like he's trying to hide her from them. And then he does this really beautiful thing where he reflects on how happy he is and identifies that what he really wants more than anything in his life is peace. And I think it's such a full circle moment for Pan.
We learned so much about him in this book. We're really just tickling the surface here.
So then with that realization that he associates Tink to darkness and Winnie to the light, and he is feeling like he wants to stay in the light. And so he says the words that are fatal to the Fae. I don't believe in fairies. But to everybody's dismay, Tink doesn't die. She just laughs. This is where my thoughts start.
Okay.
I know that this is a fantasy book, that there is nothing off the table. Bringing people back from the dead I'm out.
There could have been a bigger monster. It didn't need to be somebody that we brought back that he had already defeated.
There are 7 islands, and they've been alive for thousands of years. It could have been anything, and I think that Cass and Bash, in the arc of the story, deserve their...
It didn't need to be Tink.
But it didn't need to be Tink.
There is no reason that it needed to be Tink for this, and I felt the exact same way.
Oh my God. Thank you.
I hate when we agree, though.
I really hate that, too. So does Peggle.
We'll have other thoughts. Okay. We'll disagree, I'm sure.
Well, we're back to Rock and Smee.
I'm
Rock
so happy.
I
I thought that we were done with Rock. It's been a while since I read this, and when I saw him, I was like,
Mhm.
just happy.
He plays such an important role in
Yeah.
this book.
How
It
I forgot about him.
I forgot about this whole book.
I did too. I
There were
don't
questions
remember anything.
No. There were questions I asked in the last one about the existence of shadows that gets answered in this book.
Some of the things where we said, "You never find out." Well,
Mhm.
you
We
do.
do, actually, which is embarrassing, but it just goes to show how many of these books they all kind of blur together. Well, Rock has regained consciousness after his three-course meal of Fae soldiers on the beach and has realized that Smee told Hook about Wendy and he's left Rock on Neverland. He and Smee have a bit of a standoff. Rock wants more details from Smee, and I think that I fall in love with Smee in this scene. Like, I'm actually in love with her. She's so I don't know if the word is shrewd, but she fully calls him out. She says, "I think you care very little because it keeps you safe, but caring very little means when you do care, losing it has a much higher cost." And you could tell that her being able to get to the heart of that makes him really, really uncomfortable. He is immortal. At one point in time, I get the sense that he's actually older than Pan
Sure.
based on their conversation later on. And so for her to be able to needle him like that is so impressive.
Everybody else is just afraid of him. Nobody cares anything that's beneath the surface. Even his family is afraid of him, and Smee just can read him like a book.
And threatens him. In this entire scene, Smee is flexing on Rock. She follows it up with a few more astute observations and then dismisses him via the servant's entrance. Just such a
Queen.
power move. We're back with Winnie and the boys, who are all sleeping snuggled in one bed. And they wake to it snowing in Neverland, where it has never snowed before. They race out to the woods to find Pan and Tink engaged in battle. And the twins believe that it's a trick being played on them by Tilly. They realize that it's not, and then Tink's plan begins to play out here. She is very strategic. She's playing the part of doting mom, and she says that she wants peace, and she invites them to the Fae Palace to discuss uniting Neverland. And Tink seems to think the most effective way to get what she wants is through her sons. Because not moments before they enter the clearing, she has a blade at Pan's throat.
Yeah, all of this is her. She's playing everybody
Mhm,
to get what she wants.
mhm.
She just wants her sons back, so
Yeah.
she's pretending. She just is so manipulative and not in an adorable way.
I feel like she does feel so power hungry that it feels out of character that she is trying to obtain that power through her sons.
I also did not love that whole thing.
Yeah,
She just wants the shadow, she wants power,
for
is what
sure.
I was thinking at this point.
They return to the clubhouse, and we delve a little bit deeper into how badly the twins want their wings back. Everybody else can fly, they can't fly. You know, it's becoming sort of a focal point of the book, even though it's been hinted at in previous books, but kind of glossed over in terms of
Yeah.
how important it is. They're so eager to get their wings back that they are willing to risk the trap that they see that Tink is laying.
Well, they're setting a trap too. Bash and Cass know where they think their wings are.
They
Be
think that they're gonna be able to get one over
Yeah,
on Tink,
and they can sneak in to the vault where they think their
which is
wings
so
are.
silly because she's your
She knows.
mom, and Pan knows how conniving she is, so for her sons to not realize is
Right.
you literally disowned her for Pan, but I there are some plot and character holes in this final book that I
Yeah.
don't love. Cass and Bash get kind of stuck on the idea that they really need to save Tilly as well.
Mhm.
Vane's against it. The twins remind Vane he once had a sister and a
The
fight.
twins were gonna kill Tilly in the second book, was it?
Right. Yeah. They
They've
almost kill her in this book
Yeah,
also.
they've accepted that they have to
Mhm.
kill her,
Mhm.
but now they must save her.
Mhm. Bash and Vane break out in a fight, which is broken up by Darling's shadow. Smart girl. Now is the appropriate time. Now that Vane is in love with you and you have a death shadow, now you can break up the big stupid boys.
Yes.
So in the last book, Nicole and I kind of skipped over a small detail. During the battle at the lagoon at the end of the last book, Pan fell into the water, which the lagoon does not want
No,
in
he's
it.
scared of it. They have an understanding that he is not to go in it.
And the lagoon holds him underwater and whispers a riddle to him, something that really shook him. It eventually let him go. And this is where the next part of Tinkerbell's plan plays out, because at the time of this battle, she's dead in the lagoon, listening to the whisperings of the lagoon. So
Somehow she's
yeah, there's
dead, but somehow she's not.
alluding to some sort of afterlife that happens or that plays out in the lagoon. She's using Pan's uncertainty about who he is against him. And Pan feels like the return of his shadow should have made all right in the world, but the island feels distant. His shadow feels restless, and he's questioning what it all means. The group decide, after the fight has been broken up, that they're going to accept Tink's invitation. I feel very much trapped by Tinkerbell at this point, and I hate that. Nikki St. Crowe did a good job of making me not like Tinkerbell.
There's no redeeming. I never once felt any type of remorse or anything for her.
Her presence is very ominous. And even with Tilly,
She does give you reasons to maybe feel bad for her and to relate to her.
absolutely. Tink, there's none of that. She's unkillable. I mean, she's playing this group of people against themselves. And
well, and we get a lot of thoughts in this one, and you feel their almost disconnect. What exactly what Tink is trying to do to internally quarrel.
Pan, we learn, is feeling lonely.
This is why I can't do this reverse harem. This is how I would be feeling all the time.
Oh, sure. Because everybody's paired up. Cass has Bash and Vane has Darling. And
anytime anybody's looking at somebody else, I would be feeling jealous or envious of this closeness that they have too.
Can I tell you, I think the reason that this is so appealing to me is the opposite of that.
Sure.
Where I would be, could you please just go look at somebody else and leave me the fuck alone?
You do need that.
I really do.
You do.
I would like you when I'm ready for you, and right now I'm not ready for you, so why don't you go play with her or him and leave me alone?
Yeah.
I don't want,
I just want Dave to go play by himself. Well, until I'm ready. But absolutely, I do not share my toys. You want to share.
I want to share. I like it. Because then guess what? When I'm mad at that toy, I can go talk to that toy.
That's true. That does give you other toys. But I don't care. I want one and that's it.
I love that for you. In this scene right here, I'm reminded a lot of the baby in the prologue of the book. He feels very vulnerable here, similar to that baby. He feels restless. He feels hard to please. It's interesting because he does have Darling here. She's trying to comfort him and is looking to him for help. Like in the scene where Bash and Vane are fighting, she sort of is like, Pan, come and break it up. So she's still feeling connected to him and wanting to deepen their relationship. And it's him that's pulling away. So he's really creating his own.
Yeah. He's not feeling whole. It's that whole like work on yourself.
Sure.
Before you can have somebody else.
Yeah.
It's that Pan needs to figure his mommy issues out here.
I think he's just being a baby, and I hate that. I hate pouty men.
Same.
It's okay to want to work through some issues, but like, let's not fucking pout about it. We're back to Rock, who is lost. Poor guy. This genius man we come to the end and you guys are going to be like, oh my God, what a genius. He has no clue how to find the current whereabouts of
He's
Wendy.
literally just wandering around the island.
He walks up to a peanut vendor in the middle of Hook's town square of his territory and just says, hey, do you know where I can find a Wendy Darling? The peanut guy is like, no, but I have some roasted nuts if you'd like them.
And I love that she had to have that little chapter about it because it's just very Rock.
He's like, I have no idea even where to begin. And he's like, I'm going to have some peanuts.
Yep.
He decides he's going to go talk to Tilly. And he just this is his life mission now. And he's just kind of like, I got time.
And that one of the perks of being immortal.
I guess.
All he has is time.
Honest to God, there's no sense of
You would
urgency.
think there would be a sense of urgency, though, since he knows Hook is on his way. Hook knows where she is.
I know, but I think Rock is also realizing that Hook is a big dumb idiot,
Yeah.
so he doesn't have anything to worry about. So he makes a visit to Tilly. He realizes that the throne is gone and starts to put together what may have happened just as Tink walks in the room. And he meets Tink. And I love Rock again because he comes face to face with the dead mother queen of the fairies. And he lights a cigarette and
Yep.
he's like, "So, just what's your plan here? How's this playing out?" Just could not be bothered.
No.
We're back to the twins. They visit their Nana's grave where they run into Tilly, who is leaving mementos on their grandmother's grave. And in talking with her, they realize just how much trouble she's in and how kind of defeated and messy she is.
This is where they could have decided we need to save her,
Mhm.
but not before. Just some sequence issues, maybe. Because here I did feel bad for her. I was like, I have felt like that, where
Yeah.
you've made so many mistakes,
You
you
don't know
don't
how to
even know what to do anymore. So I can relate to that.
Mhm. She's
And now I feel bad for her.
yeah. So, we're back to Winnie and Vane, and I have so many thoughts about this scene that plays
Yeah.
out. What are you like, giddy?
I'm
You
waiting to
cannot
see what you
fucking
think.
wait to talk about it. Winnie confronts Vane, reading, as he does. While discussing the situation that's playing out with Vane, Vane calls Winnie darling, and then Winnie expresses how she doesn't like that. He's the only one that calls her Win, and that feels special and intimate to her. I felt really bad here because she says that the boys call her darling as if she is
Just an
an
object, like
object,
the rug.
and darling is my favorite thing. So I
Mhm.
stopped calling her darling. I started calling her Winnie.
I think I've always called her Winnie,
Have.
but I
This
also can relate to this little thing.
what little thing?
Winnie's feelings when somebody calls her something
Mm,
different. I'll read anything into anything that someone says or does,
sure.
but she's making a
Like
big
when
deal
I
out of
told somebody
nothing.
else
Yes.
that we would be good roommates
Yes.
and was not talking about you.
Yep.
I could see that. Winnie straddles him and she's seducing him, as she does always, and he gives in to her, all the while calling her darling and telling her she can't tell him what to do, even though she's very clearly in control of the situation. And he's teasing her, which is so unusual for these 2. This
Mhm.
entire the
I
whole
liked this
wi
scene.
I hated this scene.
It
I
was because it's different. I usually don't like in the
the
last book.
teasing, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's because you love Vane,
Yeah.
and so you love this little
Bash made a comeback in this book, though. I
he
have a
really
lot of thoughts about Bash.
he's I I shouldn't have second guessed myself in the second book when I switched to Cass. I should have just stuck
Mhm.
with Ash from the beginning.
But the spiciness starts on page 57 and goes to 63. Short little guy.
It's feels longer. There's a
Just because you
lot
were
of
bored of it.
well, no, I think there was a lot of teasing. This scene reminded me or was very reminiscent to me of the mating scenes that we have read in other books
Sure.
where, like, it's like ACOTAR,
Yeah.
where it's transcendent, the sparks of their souls are coming together.
Right.
You love that
You're
shit.
over it.
I hate it. He gets her on the table and starts fucking her properly, as he should. Rough. And they can start to feel each other's emotions. And Winnie is feeling overwhelmed by her love for him. While they're in this moment, Vane tells Winnie that he can feel her love in his chest, and she asks him to promise not to leave her, and he says, "I promise, Win," and he calls her Winnie.
I
Calls her
loved that part. I guess
It's
I am the hopeless romantic that you are really not.
I really am not. I think that for me, associating love with sex is such a tricky thing.
Yes.
I don't I think that just as a person, I don't associate love and sex with one another, and I don't think love should be expressed via sex necessarily.
Sure. But you've never just been, like, overwhelmed with love when you're having sex?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. No.
Shoot.
I have been overwhelmed with boredom. I have been overwhelmed with orgasms. I don't think I've ever been overwhelmed with love.
Interesting.
Not because I don't love the people that I'm having
Right.
sex with. I just
You don't associate sex with love.
no, and I think
That's
love for
fine.
me is I associate love with f for me, love is very friendship based. So, like, I when I think about love, I think about the love that I have for my friends. I think about the love like, I think about my love with my husband is very friendship based, like, we are very good friends.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily associate it with sex. I think that sex can be enjoyed without it.
100%. Yes, it can. I have slept with a lot of people
But
that
you
I
get
did
into
not love.
but you get into dangerous territory when you start to say things like, "I only have sex with people that I love."
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I
I
have
just
not.
I'm not probably describing that well, we might cut this.
Oh, man.
But this one of the things that I found interesting about this scene was that we don't get a ton of solo scenes like this.
No, we most of the scenes that we get through all of these books are at
There's
least
at
3 of
least
them.
yeah, at least one other person, and even the one scene that we got with her and Pan was very, very short.
It didn't feel as intimate.
The scene feels very, very intimate. So it's so strange.
Did you feel like this was I expected at the end of this book for it just to be Winnie and Vane ending up together.
Oh, no.
I felt like she really set up they have something different,
Hmm.
and they in 1,000 years, do you think that Winnie is still with all of them, or you think she's just with Vane?
In 1,000 years, she's still with all of them.
Okay.
Maybe she gets another couple to add to her
Just
menagerie.
collecting these lost boys and
Yeah,
fairies.
yeah.
Okay.
She's just gonna add to her collection. I also think it's interesting though because, again, kind of what you brought up earlier about use how we see this sort of separation and disconnect in this group.
Mhm.
This scene right here really feeds into that feeling of isolation. And Pan's uncertainty has sort of caused the fissure, but, like, he's feeling uncertainty because of the fissure. So it's like
Yeah.
the chicken before the egg. Speaking of Pan's vulnerability and the fissures that it's kind of created, we see Winnie here also having intrusive thoughts, which we've never
Mhm.
seen before. Her thoughts are telling her she can't have anything good. This will end. She'll be alone when it's all over. It's so, so out of character for Winnie. But I also think that this entire group for so long has been dealing with, like, traumatic experience after traumatic experience after traumatic experience, and I do think it's very realistic for you to finally get your peace and have all of those traumas
Yeah.
start to surface. It's when you're dealing with traumas, you're just dealing with the
You're
traumas.
waiting for the other foot to for the other shoe to drop.
You're
She
not you're
doesn't believe any of this is real.
sure.
She's waiting for something bad to happen. And I think the shadow too is
Mhm.
making it much worse.
Oh, you think the shadow is adding to it.
Yeah, I think the shadow is in her head telling her
Interesting.
an isolator.
No.
No.
No, I think the shadow wants everybody to prove their loyalty to Winnie. The shadow and I have a lot in common. We want everybody Winnie gets what she deserves in this book. We get Pan's POV. He's overhearing Vane and Darling in the other room having sex and is kind of spiraling. He wants to go in. But he's feeling sorry for himself, so he decides he's not gonna join them. And he's just kind of hanging out, moping outside of the door.
Just he's riling himself up.
He is.
He's stewing.
He really is. So the island is cold and gloomy, and the stars are gone, and Pan keeps having these thoughts that he doesn't deserve the shadow. The first time that I read this book, I thought that the weather change was because of Tink.
Oh, interesting.
I thought that her return because it says, the lightning opened up over the
Mhm.
lagoon and the sky darkened and, then the snow starts to
I
fall.
suppose that does make sense.
Reading this now, I realize that the changes in the weather are related to Pan.
Yeah, in the
Pan
shadow.
is creating the changes in the island because of where he's at mentally, and
Yeah.
the fact that it's never snowed on this island before gives us a sense of how many times this has happened to Pan, which is never.
No, Pan is so arrogant and
Yeah. He's
Not
never
bothered.
he's never been vulnerable enough to feel these types of feelings.
No.
He's a fucking asshole, though.
Yeah.
So Vane and Winnie exit the room, and he decides that he's gonna treat Winnie like shit, like a barmaid.
Pissed me
It
off.
made me so
I
mad.
was so mad.
It's like we tell my kids, "You can be mad, you can't be mean.
Love that.
You can be mad, you can't be mean. Don't especially not to Winnie, darling. I will kick you in your balls." Vane intervenes, and once again, Pan turns away from Winnie. He doesn't even apologize.
No.
He just tells Vane to not leave her side and then leaves her there, her head spinning.
I hated it. And he never apologizes.
Nope.
He's Pan. He can't be bothered.
Those men don't stay in relationships long. The twins return, weary from their run-in with Tilly, and Bash asks himself the question we're all wondering, which is, why is everyone constantly fighting, and can we not indulge in sweets and sex for more than one day?
Mhm.
I'm a Bash girl
Yeah.
through and through. The Love Pod makes their way to the Fae Palace, where Tink is taken over as the Mother Queen. Pan decides to drink fairy wine, even though he knows it's a bad idea. This whole thing is just fucking chaos.
He is spiraling into self-destruction, and he's gonna take the whole damn island with him.
Absolutely. Tink understands what's going on. She
Mhm.
realizes fully this is a mommy issue. He is feeling abandoned, and he's not sure if he's a myth or a god. And she decides that she's going to tell him the story of the mother leaving the boy in the lagoon, and basically says to him, "You couldn't be a myth or a god because you had a mother." And this solidifies his fear and his self-doubt, and he just continues to spiral. But
We get Rock
we get
back.
Rock back. Rock's at the party where when he meets him for the first time, honestly, I got the sense that she was in love with him right away.
Yeah.
They're not in love,
Well,
but
she, saw him at the
Mhm.
battle, but didn't officially, meet him.
Yeah. And not, so close up.
Yes.
She's attracted to him.
Who wouldn't be?
He fights somebody off in her honor. They they would be
He
so
takes
good
just a
together.
sweet, after this part, I have decided I need to go back and finish The Devourer of Men because
Mhm.
I am obsessed with him.
He's so great.
He's so sweet, he's so kind, he's so perfect, he can dance.
Mhm.
Come on.
Speaking of dancing, they dance. Rock and Rock and Winnie dance while Vane goes to check on Pan, who's spiraling in a corner. This was the first time I didn't think about this in the last book, but we never once in any of Rock's POV ever hear anything about his sister.
Right?
This is the first time that we really see him, acknowledging that he had a sister, and while they dance, he fills her in on their family's history. They are fallen, overruled nobility, banished to a wasteland where Rock accidentally ate a princess, and as retribution, the princess's family kidnapped, raped, and killed Ian Vane's sister. While this all goes down, the twins have been sent to their old rooms by Tink to be fitted in their royal attire, under the guise that she intends to make them princes again. We're still on that. They decide that while they're there, they're going to search for their wings. They find the vault they're being held in and easily gain access to the room, but they don't find their wings. They do find some fairy loot.
They do. Well, and they say that they couldn't tell if they didn't feel like their wings had ever been there.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's a magic artifact that's missing that they can't identify what it
Mhm.
is or where it's gone. But they return to the party where Pan is full out spiraling, and they decide to take Winnie home so she can get fucked by 4 men at once, which is the absolute right answer when somebody in your little love pod is spiraling, is just to have everybody have sex.
See, and it was a lot.
This scene.
4 men and 1 woman it's a lot.
That's
And
why I always clarify that I don't think I want 4 men, I think I'd rather have 2 women, 2 men, or maybe just 2 men and a woman.
Yeah. Well, and I've never been with more than 1 person at a time. So this is
Sure.
new for me. I've been asked.
We've talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
I have been with more than one person many times.
Have you done 2 men with
2
you?
men and with me, also with me and a woman and a man.
Have you done more than
Never more than 3 of us that I can recall. They do get like I said, The one where we had the faces pressed up against the van window
Yeah.
while we were going at it in the parking lot.
Yeah.
There was probably 6 people watching, so does that make it a ninesome?
See, I've also had that happen.
Where people are watching you?
Yes.
Oh, sure.
I didn't know it was in the back of, like, an Explorer vehicle,
Sure.
and it was the middle of the night, and we were all drunk, and we were on someone else's farm. Bunch of people opened the door as I'm just getting railed from behind.
They opened the door?
Yeah.
That's so rude.
I know.
We have polite old men
Oh,
outside of
no.
a bar
These are people I
midday.
know. These are people I
What?
knew
Oh,
who opened the door
no.
and saw it all, and it was
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have a lot of sex, inevitably people are gonna walk in on you having sex. I've
oh,
been
the
walked
nut
in on
same,
many, many times.
same.
So,
But I've never done more than one
yeah.
person.
Well, I think in the last book, we talked a little bit about how important it is for the men to know
Yeah.
what the other likes, and I can't underscore the importance of that enough because
I feel like there's such a good story there.
yeah,
That is for another time.
maybe.
Mhm. Down the
Mhm.
road. I
Okay.
request.
Little bonus episode. So they take Winnie home. They take her up to Pan's old room where they get to play a game. In the game, Winnie is tied up and blindfolded, and they make her guess whose hands are on her. If she gets right, she gets a reward. If she guesses wrong, she gets a punishment. She guesses the first 2 wrong, which she should have guessed that Bash was first. I don't know how
I
she fucked
thought
that
the
up.
same thing. Bitch, Bash is always the
It's
first one to touch you.
always Bash. Every
Always.
single time. Why would it not be him this time around? She gets 2 spankings and says to herself, "I'm not sure if I'm winning or losing here."
Just love her.
I really love her so much. Not so much in this book, though.
No,
There wasn't a
same.
lot to love in this book.
No,
And
right.
I just wanna clarify, not because she is feeling vulnerable and, like, kind of having her own hard time, but just because we don't get a lot of her really in this book.
No, we really don't. It's like
So
Bash in the last book where
mhm.
there just wasn't a lot to care
Yeah.
about.
She guesses Cass correctly. She gets to sit on his face while she guesses the next one, Pan, and her reward is to get fucked by Cass, who comes, and then she gets moved to another dick, Bash. Pan gets her ass and Bane takes her mouth, and Cass brings in the vines again.
I do love those vines.
Those vines are here. It's really no different than showing up to the party with your vibrators, so
No.
everyone spontaneously combusts. It's a great scene. There's aftercare. The aftercare is beautiful and so
Yeah.
important in something like this. What page does this start on?
So this is page 135 to page 143.
Okay.
A little longer, but
Yeah.
still, it's nothing like the second book.
Mhm. So did you have a favorite between this one and the last one?
No.
Really? I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting the one
Trying to
with
think.
favorite.
I do really like that one,
Mm.
but I'm not gonna go back and read that for inspiration.
Mm,
I'm not going back to these last 2 books for any type of inspiration.
sure. I obviously would have chosen this scene over the main scene.
Okay, but would you have chosen this scene over the tree scene in book 2?
I wouldn't have chosen any scene over the vein tree scene, which was the best scene
Sure,
in
that
all of the
scene. Okay.
books, in my opinion. In my humble opinion.
Sure, okay.
Winnie wakes up and makes her way to the kitchen for some water, where she runs into Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell's in their house. Tink divulges to Winnie that she wants the life shadow from Pan to share between Cass and Bash, and that she cannot take Winnie's shadow because of the runes her mom had carved into her back, which we learned about in book 1. This is when Darling hears her mom calling for help outside the clubhouse. She runs to help her and suddenly finds herself on the beach with the men. Clearly, it's one of Tink's illusions. We understand that. Pan awakes. He and the other men are being attacked by the Lost Boys who are possessed by Tink. Pan is stabbed with a blade that is made of the same material as the stone that Holt used to take Vane's shadow. They realize that Winnie is missing and are trying to help Pan when 3 more blades are thrown at Vane. So this is just erupting into chaos. Tinkerbell and Tilly have organized the ambush, and we discover that Tilly had the twins' wings and destroyed them, so there's no chance of them ever getting them
No.
back. They almost kill her here.
That
Fact
was
they
that
were
was
just
so devastating
it
to learn.
really was. The way that they experienced that devastation
Yeah.
was like losing a limb and
Yeah, they
realizing
say
you're never
that.
getting it back.
It's so devastating to read.
Tink leverages the whereabouts of Darling to control the chaos, and Pan agrees to give up his shadow in exchange for Minnie. The shadow jumps eagerly to the twins, which I thought was interesting.
Mhm.
The shadow was ready to move
Yeah,
on.
he was not it's not Pan Shadow anymore.
No, not at all, which he knew.
He always said he felt like something was different. He didn't feel whole, there was still something missing,
And even just the struggle for him to capture it to begin with
which
was
we felt was so anticlimactic,
yes,
and that is clearly why.
why, absolutely. So the twins fall to the floor, and then they stand back up, and their wings have been returned by the shadow, which is
I was just
so
so happy there.
yeah, I know, I was so happy for them. However, Tink backs out of her promise, refusing to give up Winnie's whereabouts. We get back to Winnie, we discover she's buried in a box, and she is saved by Tilly, who is trying to remedy all of the damage that she caused. The twins, Tilly, Vane, and Darling, confront Tink. They have one of those blades that were used on them,
Yep.
and they seem to think that that might be able to stop her. Pan is MIA, and nothing is stopping this bitch.
No.
They try the blade.
They stab her in
She
the heart. It's
yeah, she
nothing.
just pops right back up again, which is terrifying and so annoying. We get back to Rock. He is being a creep. He's
Yep.
watching this all happen from a distance.
Yeah, he eating peanuts.
It's not his fight.
He does not
He
care. He literally makes the comment that this is the only time he would have preferred to have popcorn instead of peanuts. Nothing
I
is serious for that man.
yeah, I aspire to be
That unbothered.
not unbothered by things.
His brother is getting attacked,
His brother
and
is
he's just like,
bleeding.
"Meh,
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, we'll see. We'll just give it another
we'll wait and
minute."
see what happens." This whole scene with Rock, I'm obsessed with it.
You're gonna have to fill in because there's a lot happening,
Yes.
and so you're probably gonna have to
I
fill
didn't take a ton of notes,
in.
but
Okay,
it's
but you just
it's in my head.
I love that. So Rock decides that the current situation with the unkillable fairy queen and his brother, who is dying at her hands, is boring him, and he
Yeah.
decides to go look for Pan, who he finds crying on the sand in the lagoon. And they kind of, like, share a moment here. This is where I got the sense that Rock was older than Pan.
Sure.
Rock translates the riddle that the lagoon
In 2 seconds,
yeah.
Pan has been sitting on this information for,
Mhm.
okay, maybe only hours, but
Yeah.
Rock hears it and he's like, I got some idea."
Do you remember back when I was talking about how in scary movies, if the one person would just communicate?
Yes.
This book, it was fucking
Agreed.
quintessential. Just fucking tell somebody what the lagoon said to you. We could have
Clearly,
put all of this behind us. It could be done by now.
nobody else could have done this, though.
No,
Nobody else
besides Rock.
yes. It
Mhm.
had to, and I just love his inner thoughts of how he's got an idea.
Mhm. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. He's got an idea.
He convinces Pan to go into the water and then forces him underwater where he holds him under until Pan dies in his grip
Yep.
and sinks to the bottom.
And then he's just thinking that he's gonna wait and see what happens and really hoping that his idea is right.
In this scene, it's a really, really good thing that the way that she wrote him was to make me trust him
Yes.
because I trusted him implicitly in this scene.
Yeah. I never thought it was
If
going bad.
Bash had been holding him under the water, I probably would have been screaming at the book
Yes.
to let him up to get some air, but I really trusted Brock because of the way that he's written and all of the other experiences that we've had with him, and anyways, we get an interesting perspective here. We get Balder the Wolf's viewpoint, and this is bringing all the way back to the mother scene. So Balder is creeping on the mother. I don't know why there's so much creeping happening.
There really is. Why don't they
I
just
don't
go
know.
places together? It's a scary
Yeah,
movie again.
well, especially since they're both gods and she knows that he's watching. But anyways, so Balder is watching the mother put the crying baby into the lagoon, and the mother comes over to talk to Balder. She's kind of questioning her decision. The baby turns over in the water, and she sort of rushes to save him, and the wolf holds her back, saying that the lagoon will give him what he needs. And a moment later, a little boy emerges from the water, flying. And before the boy can spot the mother, she returns to the sky from where she came. It says in the book, she's easy to spot. She's the brightest light in the dark, the second star on the right. And I did get goosebumps when I read
I have goosebumps now.
it. I know.
That whole, because that's always what I remember. You always remember second star to the right and until morning.
Yeah,
And it's just such
the
a
way that
clean little package that
it
we
really
got.
is. We return to Rock, waiting on the beach, when Peter Pan, in a blaze of light, shoots to the sky from the lagoon's depth. And my favorite part of this is how absolutely bored Rock is by it.
He was over it. He never second guessed his decision though. He's like, I did the right thing here.
He's just like, all right, cool, that worked. I'm out of peanuts.
Yep, I got places to be.
So it all comes together. Balder and Pan's mom were gods. Pan is a god, and the shadow was given to him as a crutch to help him until he could be powerful on his own, which he is now. So he had embraced the darkness already, and now he has the light, and he can embrace the light and the dark, and he doesn't need the shadow to be the light for him anymore. And he flies over to the clubhouse where the battle is being lost, unfortunately, takes Tink's face between his palms and uses, like, his laser godlight to
Yeah,
kill her from
disintegrates
the
her.
inside out. Mhm.
It
When
was kinda savage that Bash and Cass were holding her,
Mhm.
and Pan said, "Don't let go," as she disintegrates. That was
No.
pretty brutal.
Yeah. Bye, mommy. When the battle is won, the twins tell Tilly that they are going to rule over the Fae, and Tilly agrees.
And she gets out of there.
Yeah. She tells them that she's gonna leave Neverland and that it was always meant to be them. And we end the book with the Love Pod celebrating the coronation of the Fae Kings, well, the new Fae Kings, I guess
Yeah.
I should say, and the men on their knees
Yep.
at Winnie's feet
For
as
the
their
queen that she is.
queen that she is. Mhm. That's what
Yes.
I meant when I said that she gets what she deserves.
She really does.
Our epilogue on this book is Rock and Tilly on a ship sailing for Everland.
I didn't even read it.
Oh, wow.
I know.
You were over it.
Yeah, I was ready for it
Well,
to be
I think
done.
it was good to know that Tilly is with Rock.
I will agree with that, 'cause that whole scene kind of did feel out of character. They wanted to kill her in the first few books, and now they've decided they have to save her, and now she says she's gonna leave, and they're like, "I think that's probably for the best."
Right.
Just this character changes in
I know.
every other book.
She sacrifices it's really not every other book, though, it's just this book.
Right.
She sacrificed a family heirloom because she was that desperate
Yeah.
for power.
Well, maybe we'll get to see her happy ending.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Tilly feels like somebody who maybe doesn't learn from her mistakes.
No, clearly
So
not.
which
Hopefully,
is
she does well on another island.
maybe it'll be Pleasure Island.
That is where I want to go.
Mhm.
I hope that's where Wendy is. Oh, no, she's
Ooh.
on Everland.
Well, that was her last known location.
Exactly.
We
Yeah,
don't
we don't
actually
know.
yeah.
All right.
Well, that concludes our Vicious Lost Boys series.
Yeah, but now we have to talk about the ratings.
We do have to talk about the ratings.
So, what did you give it for spice level?
I had a really hard time with this.
I went back and forth too.
I'm gonna give it, I think, probably I'm gonna stick with a 3
Okay.
on this
I
one.
did give it a 4 just because
Mhm.
all 5 of them together is
Mhm. It's
I wouldn't recommend that to my sister.
yeah, that
The
is a little
first
advanced.
Yes.
I'm gonna increase my rating to a 3.5. I was almost there anyways.
I know, and that's where I went back and forth between the 2 because there is not a lot of sex. I was the level of disappointment rereading this.
Yeah.
But that was definitely a more advanced
It
sex
is,
scene.
but even, like, with the way that she was having sex with them, it was just, like, very vanilla.
Yeah. She
She's
did get some anal this time, though.
she did, that's true.
Some
I
double penetration.
Well, I'm gonna stick with my 3.5. I
Okay.
think it was not a sexy book.
It
There
was
was not a
not.
lot of sexual tension. I
No.
didn't this is definitely not something that I would read for
Inspiration.
inspiration. Yeah.
Alright, Spice Frequency.
I'm gonna give this a 1.
Another one. I still gave it a
Mhm.
2. There still was.
Mhm.
There's a couple scenes.
Yeah.
Alright, storyline.
Storyline, I'm gonna give this a 2.
Oh, no.
No.
I gave it 4. I still think it was a nice conclusion. I feel that all the loose ends were pretty wrapped up.
Mhm.
I think if you took out the sex, it'd be a fun read. Be a fun, easy read for her.
Yeah, I feel like if you took out all the sex, it would be
You're
so
not
boring.
even
Yeah, I
no.
wouldn't even
We don't but we only basically read books with sex.
No, you only basically read books with sex. I'm reading 3 other books right now that are not
I have
sex
read
related.
2
Good for you.
other books recently.
Good.
And I'm still trying to muster my way through the 3rd Mistborn.
Sure.
So, I actually haven't read a sex book. That's a lie. I read 2 on Saturday.
Mhm.
Sunday.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. I'm
Pros.
gonna give it a 4.
I give it a 4 too.
Mhm. She's a good writer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Overall.
Overall, I'm gonna give it a 2.
Okay. I gave it a 3.
Mhm.
It was fine.
Mhm.
Don't start out with it.
I would
Make your way
say
to it. It's a great conclusion to the whole saga.
yeah. I would say that if you read the first 3 in the series and then you're kind of like, "Oh, do I wanna read the 4th one?" You could probably just listen to this episode
Yeah,
and
you
save
have
yourself
to.
the trouble of it.
What are we reading next?
You tell us.
We are reading because we're getting spooky season.
Mhm.
We're doing Phantasma by Kaylee Smith,
Mhm.
the newer one.
Yep.
Right now, it's a standalone. There are 2 of them, but the new one's not out, and it does not read like it has to keep going. Cannot wait.
Well, I don't yeah, I think that we will be very selective about any series that we read in the future.
Yeah.
So, there is
And
one other series that we're talking about doing,
yeah.
Neon Gods, where we could read them each individually. They don't.
Well, and Haunting Adeline.
And Haunting Adeline.
We're reading a lot of series, but we won't necessarily do both of them.
Yeah, for sure. Just because this gets to be, I think, long for everybody. So,
Agreed. Please listen to it, though.
yeah. Where can you find these books?
You can find them. They are all still on Kindle Unlimited. You can buy them on, like, Target, Amazon, anywhere like that.
Mhm.
Again, I could not get them at my local library, but apparently there are audiobooks.
Mhm. And Nikki St. Crowe just released a new version of this book
Yeah,
where it's all 4 of the books together, and it's sort of like a spooky season
it looks so
style.
cool.
It does. It
It's
looks
really
really
cool.
cool.
It's a collector item for sure.
Yeah. It has, like, green pages,
Yeah.
and yeah, it looks so cool. So, join us next time, and thanks for listening.